2013. March 17th, 2013. Try to get this camera positioned correctly. I'm going to go back to Oklahoma for a bit. I'm going to talk about the river. The town I grew up in, Yukon. Spent 10 years there from 5th grade to when I moved away. So I'm going to say it was 72 to 82. It's about 10 years. Some of the early memories before I was driving and venturing away, we kids. I think Mike was driving, so it was before I was driving. But there's a river right outside of town. Yukon's located about 10 miles outside of Oklahoma City. And north of Yukon, if you go out of town about 5 miles, is the North Canadian River. And I think it stretches over and dumps in. I don't know where it comes in, but it stretches along the north end of across the state there. And it's not really a deep river. I remember in the summertime, probably knee to waist deep in spots. But the thing I remember my brother and cousin, before this would be Chuck. Before Chuck went off to the Marines, he stayed with us. His family lived there in town, but moved away, and he was able to stay with us that last year so he could graduate from his hometown there. So he was staying with us for a year there. The last year of graduation was about 75. That we went out to the river, drove out, and shoot some fireworks off or something like that. And I remember there's always a story about don't get too close to the river. Some of the sandbars is like quicksand. And I remember walking, and it's pretty scary because if you're walking along the sandy side of the river there, you hit some really soft spots, and your feet you start to sink right away. So they said never go out, by yourself. Always go when you're going to the river. Always go with somebody. But I remember I was younger then, and things like that kind of stick with you. But later on, when the boys and I could drive, we went out there and go swimming in the river once in a while. But one of the things we did was took inner tubes down. I think every boy, I think even Charleston remembers taking, because the river over here, the Rum River, taking inner tubes down the river is something that you do. But there was 4 of us. I know there was Mike and I and Dale, and there was somebody else. I don't remember who it was. But there's 4 of us. We got the inner tubes. We parked the car and figured we'd float down. And once we got down, because the river dumps into one of the man-made lakes there, Lake Overholster, which is about 5 miles east of Yukon, and the river was about 5 miles north of Yukon. But the river dumps into the lake eventually, and we was just going to take the tubes all the way down to the lake, and then Dale was going to call his mother from there and have us picked up. But it was quite a adventure. I know we started floating down. And we brought a little lunch and wrapped it in plastic bags and kind of tied it to the raft and to our different inner tubes, and we just floated down. I remember we came across some what the fishers, because fishing in the river is for catfish. They fish big catfish. So they'd tie the string to an overhanging limb over the river. So when you're floating down, you'd see these strings hanging off these trees, and we would stop and we'd check them just to see if there's anything on them. And most of them were empty. But we found one. There was a huge catfish, so we untied it, and someone tied it to to their river, to their inner tube, and we floated down with that catfish swimming around with us. Did run across a couple of snakes, and there is poisonous snakes in Oklahoma, so you had to watch out for copperheads and diamondbacks and water moccasins. So anytime we'd see a snake, we just all start splashing water, and yelling and screaming. We got quite a ways down, and seen somebody along the shore, and it was just eerie. You start hearing this banjo music playing, do 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 do. Think of the deer hunter saying, "Oh my God, you're out in the middle of nowhere." And no one can hear you scream. But no, there's 4 of us, so we weren't really worried. And we just kind of joked and laughed. And I think he said, "What are you boys doing?" And we just floating down the river. So anyway, a few minutes later, we came to there's a certain bridge before we get to the lake, and there was a cop parked on the bridge and told us boys to get out. And we was kind of debating on whether we should just keep on floating down, because he's not going to come down and get in the river with us. But he was pretty eminent on us getting, stopping and getting out. You can't be floating down the river. So he did make us get out, but he wouldn't give us a lift, and he wouldn't call either. So we had to walk the rest of the way to the lake, to the old holster, and call. Then we thought we'd probably once he left, we'd go back down the river and jump back in, but we didn't. We walked the rest of the way. One thing about talk about urban legends, and we'd always go cruising around the lake Overholster there, but we would never go out at dark, because there was this was called the hook monster. So if you got down too far into where the river bends and stuff, that there was the urban legend that there's a hook monster, and kids come up with us in and blah blah blah. So we was never worried about that, because this is the middle of the day, and like I said, when you're safety in numbers, so it was quite an adventure, and it was a lot of fun, because in summertime when it's hot, jump into nice cool water like that, and like I said, it wasn't very deep, so even if you popped off your inner tube, you only get about waist deep in the river there, and but it was fun, and something that I remember. I was growing up in Oklahoma there, and one of the songs I'm going to play is from Bruce Springsteen. He had a song. This came out in 81. It was Down by the River, and I really liked it. It kind of spoke about the time and the air, and down by the river, and to the river we'd drive, and just kind of fits. I was thinking about the river today. Ankle, waist deep, floating down the river. Knuckle. March 17th, 2013. Bruce Springsteen, The River.